This is Max Eternity, and I'm here with David Bacon in Berkeley, California, talking about his show Beyond Borders. David, the show is entitled Beyond Borders. It's a simple enough title, but could you explain why you chose that title and give a little bit of an understanding of why this show is happening and what it's about?
Well, the show is about migration, specifically indigenous people. In other words, people who were living in Mexico long before the Spanish ever got there, who are now coming to California, working especially as farm workers in the fields in California. So Beyond Borders means, on the one hand, that we're looking beyond the border of the United States to Mexico. And so there are images in the show of both people's communities here in California and also in Mexico, especially photographs of social movements in Mexico that are sort of protesting the conditions, the poverty that are causing people to migrate in the first place. But Beyond Borders also means that we are looking at the migration process beyond just the hot button issue of the border, of crossing the border, as important as that is, so that we can kind of see people as people. We're looking at the languages that people speak, Triqui, Mixteco, Zapoteco. These are languages that were hundreds, if not thousands of years old, like I say, before Columbus ever got to the Americas.
Right. And so I have a question about, you were talking about the people being seen beyond just their status as immigrants. Why is there such a lack of understanding about what immigration, what happens with the immigration process, to sort of put a human face on it, to tell the story of the complexity of the struggle, instead of it just being sort of a xenophobic reaction? What's the breakdown between conveying that and the reaction that we so often see in America?
Well, part of the problem is that we have a political system that uses immigrants as a punching bag for social problems. We have an economic crisis in the United States that was caused by banks, caused by the economic system, caused by the relocation of jobs outside the U.S. by large corporations. And the politicians who defend that system don't want to and can't really defend it by arguing for its morality. And so what they do is they find scapegoats. If you don't have a job, first of all, it's your own fault. You must have done something wrong. But if it's not your fault, then it must be the fault of some immigrant who stole your job and who took it. That does not help us to understand the root causes for migration. Migration from Mexico especially has a lot to do with U.S. trade policy that basically assists big corporations.
Like NAFTA? Like NAFTA, for instance?
Exactly.
Okay.
The North American Free Trade Agreement. Helped U.S. grain companies dump corn on the Mexican market in order to take over the market, using our tax money to subsidize those companies. And the poverty that gets created by that dumping, what it really means is that if you're a corn farmer in Mexico, and Mexico has millions of people who for hundreds and hundreds of years have supported themselves and sustained themselves by growing corn, if people can't do that any longer, then they have to do whatever it takes for their families to survive.
And that's a direct result of U.S. policy sort of shaping what's domestic policy in America.
Completely. And this was a policy that was done not to help working people in the United States. In fact, it hurt working people. The North American Free Trade Agreement cost hundreds of thousands of jobs here in the United States. But in Mexico,